Hello, everyone, and welcome to Topher Spin Meteorites Meteorite Crew Hangout for July 29th, 2020. We got a lot of show and tell hopefully going on. We got the usual suspects joining us. Hopefully some new people will join us as well, and we're also going to replay this on YouTube. One of the main things that we're going to be one of the things I want to talk about today, and I've asked the group to help me discuss this, is there's a lot of people out there who are hunting for meteorites or out in the desert or out somewhere and find an unusual rock. And they Google match it to a picture, or they do a magnet test, they do a scratch test, and they think they have a meteorite. And a lot of times it's very hard to convince people once they have their mind made up that they may not have a meteorite. So that's one of the topics we're going to discuss today is identifying a meteorite, not just by a sliced meteorite, because anyone who knows about meteorites can identify a meteorite based on a slice, looking internally. But a lot of people are finding rocks and they're looking externally at the rock. So that's kind of what I want to have us as a topic today, to help people identify a meteorite or a meteor wrong from the external features and textures and everything on the rock. So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing today. Always coming back to the show and tell. But I have a bag with me of, holy crap, a few kilos of, hold on, I got to plug my wife's company. so I have a whole bag of NWA unclassified meteorites. A lot of them are cut, a lot of them aren't, but they show good external features, or at least a multitude of varied features that might help people identify a potential meteorite from a meteor wrong. Sound good, everyone?
Good.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, Fred's joining us from Canada, so the international guy, I'm going to give you first dibs, man. If you have anything to show and tell, we'd love to see it.
Well, I do have a couple of things here. Last week we had Dustin Dickens on, and he talked a little bit about shatter cones and fallback breccia. And so I have a box of shatter cones here from Ontario, Canada, from the Sudbury Basin. You can see how this piece of bedrock has been shocked, and it has the horsetail, the telltale horsetail signs of a shatter cone. So the Sudbury Basin basically was created about 1.85 billion years ago by a large impact. It's the second largest crater in the world. It's actually 250 kilometers in diameter, 62 kilometers long, and 30 kilometers wide. It's elliptical crater. But it hit with such force that the bedrock basically it was shocked to the extreme that it created these shatter cones. The other thing that happened is that all the material that was on the terrestrial material, the brecciated, it's going to be hard to see.
No,
this is
beautiful.
Called black o'napping, and so it was a result of the impact and the material jettisoned up into the air, cooled down. The black has a lot of carbons in it. It's made primarily of carbon. It was from the upper part of the impact site, and it actually has diamonds also were created due to the impact and the pressure on the carbon.
Man,
the other
that
thing
is a beautiful slice.
Yeah, and I have several, and you can contact me if anybody is interested.
Yeah,
but
by all means. I have a question about that shatter cone. Did you collect that yourself?
No, actually, these came. Craig Moody, who lives very close to the site, sent me several because Ann Black at the last Tucson show 2 years ago at the main Gem and Mineral show had her display about Sudbury. So she asked me, so I sent her a whole bunch of material, but the box of shatter cones themselves I got from Craig Moody, who self-collected.
Awesome.
the other thing that happened is that lower down, so that the black carbonaceous ones are from the top of the impact site. Lower down, we have this brachiated melt glass.
Wow.
That,
ACU 76.
and another brachiated piece of melt consisting of a lot of the terrestrial materials.
Yeah.
So this site, basically, it's within, what, about 400 miles of where I currently live. So it's a project for me coming up very shortly to head back up there and see what we can do. So that's basically
awesome.
what I have today.
That's awesome, because those are beautiful impactites. I find that a lot of impactites, which are basically terrestrial material that have been transformed by a meteorite impact. Oh, let me show that. Hold on.
Yes, it's beautiful material.
It is gorgeous, and it's got a really nice lap finish on it too, by the way.
Yeah, it does. And I have a guy who does this for me, who cuts and polishes for me.
Now, this may be a good piece to break out later on in the discussion if we get to the point where we are talking about finding material here on Earth and wondering if it's terrestrial or wondering if it's a meteorite by looking at the class and the shape and angular structure of the class in that versus the class in other material.
This is what it looks like in its state prior to polishing.
Wow.
So
that gloss does put a really nice finish on. Dang, look at that. That is awesome. Yeah, so impactites for sure. Awesome. Well, I'm glad I picked you to go first, so that worked out. Yeah. And as we learned last week from Dustin Dickens on the shatter cones, basically the impact is so great, it expends so much energy into the material, and it causes shock waves to go through the material, faster frequency than the material can vibrate. And what it does is it actually changes the material. So that's a complete little summary. But watch last week's for full Dustin details. Yeah,
for the Sudbury Basin itself, the bolide that came down was estimated to be 6.2 to 9.3 miles in diameter. So it was a large, very large.
Wow.
You know.
That's crazy, because they say that Chelyabinsk that blew up over Russia in 2013, that was the size of an 8-story building. And that's a pretty big hunk of rock. You're talking about miles across. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Sudbury Basin isn't it well over 100 miles across?
Yeah, it stretches. It's approximately 250 kilometers in diameter itself.
Yeah,
so
130, 140. Yeah. Yeah, and also the nickel from that area, the nickel that's mined in that area is from the Sudbury event, right?
Yes. Yeah. When the impact happened, nickel, copper, gold, silver, a lot of the precious metals were brought up close to the surface, and it's a big mining. It's actually one of our largest mining districts is in Sudbury for nickel. They call it the Big Nickel. Is the name of the nickname of the city. Yeah.
This if bulk in Earth, nickel is not rare, but the problem is it's all in the middle. It's in the metallic core of the planet, and so nickel on the surface is fairly rare, and it's
That's right.
It's a raw material as well, and so that site in particular is like internationally significant for a source from it.
The other thing is that some of the impactites were found as far away as Minnesota.
Jesus.
So So material was thrown quite a distance.
Now this this is an example of no one being intimidated to ask a question that you feel like you're going to look stupid. But was there any meteoritic material ever, or is it like, I mean, because like we have a meteor crater here in Arizona, and we have Canyon Diablo. What does Sudbury have?
It's the same idea. There is no residual remains of any meteoritic material, just the aftermath.
So does that talk to the age of the impact or the material of the impact, or both?
Well, it could be the material of the impact. There's debate whether it was a comet or whether it was a meteorite. There's two schools of thought as to
the difference being a comet made of ice versus a meteorite being more substantial material.
Yeah, the comet would be more ice, water, solid material, as opposed to a large iron meteorite. But just like at the meteorite crater in Arizona, they tried to find the main mass and drilled and did all kinds of exploration, and the main mass was never found. So it's the same type of thing in Sudbury.
That's pretty awesome.
But was there any fragments found up there at all, or was it just totally disintegrated?
Totally disintegrated. Now, again, this is 1.85 billion years ago. So even if there was some residual material from the meteorite itself, it is probably long gone due to our harsh climate and everything up here with snow and rain and everything. That, you know, it's gone.
Yeah.
Or it's terrestrialized.
The other cool thing about Sudbury is the overall impact structure has a second impact crater in the impact structure.
That's
like
right.
Guanapatai.
Yes.
So it's a crater in a crater structure.
Yeah, and Winnipeg, this piece here is is some impactite from that crater. So yeah, there's a crater within a crater. So that one happened 37 million years ago. So it's relatively newer than the original impact.
That's crazy. I thought that it was basically a trailer, like one impacted, made a crater, then another one behind it made a crater inside that crater, but they were separate events?
It's two separate events, 1.85 billion years ago and 37.2 million years ago.
Wow. Don't park your Ferrari there. It may happen again. Awesome. Well, that's really cool. Anyone have something they want to show off? Well, I have something I want to just show off. This is just an iron meteorite. It's Toluca. I believe it's from Mexico. And I actually just got a bigger piece of this for my personal collection. So I'm making these two pieces available, but this is not a sales pitch, this is just showing it off. So you actually have a really nice etch on these. And this one is really cool because it's super thin, so it has a lot of surface material or surface area based on its weight. But that is beautiful pattern on that. And that's Toluca. And here's another one, a thicker wedge, but still a really beautiful etch. You can see the difference in bands of metals. Yeah, so I just got a nice big slice of this for my personal collection. So these are moving to a different home, but God dang, man, you can play checkers on that. Yeah. So this one here is like I think 13 grams, and this one is like 8 grams. And I've had these for about 2 years now, and they are absolutely the way I got them. I mean, no oxidation, no nothing on them. They're pretty nice. So that's my Toluca. Now, I do have a couple examples that I can start showing off about how to tell if your meteorite is a meteorite or just a rock. If anyone has any examples they want to show, by all means, jump right in. Do you have one, Fred?
I have a couple. Actually, I had a person contact me. They found a meteorite. They know they found a meteorite because they found it in a crater, and they brought it to me, and they wanted to know how much it's worth. This is it.
Oh, jeez.
It's very light, but they swear it's a meteorite. They won't listen to me, but basically you can see the large vesicles in it, and just the color of it, the weight of it. It's a piece of silicon slag material. The guy still refuses to listen to me, wants me to send it to the university. It's going back to him, and he's going to send it to the university.
Oh, they would laugh at you. They would laugh you out of the university if you walked in with that. Yeah,
exactly.
And the dead giveaways on that are the vesicles, the big vesicles.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a bunch of shine, but it's not metal. It's not heavy, solid metal, but it has a shine to it that looks metallic. And it has...
And it probably doesn't attract a magnet.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So that's one that the magnet test would actually work on. So that's a good example. Thank you.
And
So that's one good point, is that anything that looks metallic but won't attract a magnet inherently is not a magnet, or is not a meteorite, sorry.
Gotcha.
I have another
But
one.
just because it does attract a magnet doesn't. I'm sorry, go ahead, Fred.
No, I have just another piece here that another person brought to me with a very dark fusion crust. Problem is, again, it does not attract to a magnet. I cut off a little window in it to show him that there's absolutely no indication of chondrules or anything. It's basically just a piece of common basalt.
And would we also call that the surface of that like being a benefact? My understanding of the word benefact is something that is been altered by the wind and erosion of sand or whatever to give it that surface feature that is very reminiscent of a meteorite.
Yeah, ventifact is really a factor when you have things that look like regmaglypts but really aren't. I've got one here someplace. I don't know if it's downstairs or up there. Must be downstairs. Yeah, so that surface is probably just natural fracture of terrestrial basalt. But one of the key points there is that the inside and the outside look the same, and that doesn't happen in real meteorites.
Yeah. You would imagine something that dark would have that would be a fusion crust. On the interior would be lighter, and then some formations would be in there.
One more. This was actually sold to me as a piece of a meteorite. On the bottom, it actually says meteorite 1939, and coincidentally, we had one fall about 15 minutes from my house in 1939 called the Dresden Meteorite. I basically bought this one. I use a lot of these meteorwrongs in different talks and outreach programs that I do. But basically, when I made a cut in it, it does look like it's metallic, but again, just a piece of slag with a dark outer surface. And what they did at this time when the meteorite fell in 1939, it made some international news, and tourists came up to the area. And what the farmers would do is they take pieces of their slag and they'd sell it at the roadside as pieces of the actual meteorite itself.
Oh my God, that's That's crumbs. Well, I was gonna say, even when it's mounted on a wood base like that, that doesn't make it a real meteorite still.
No, even if it says meteorite on the bottom. No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a really common theme to all of this. Is my rock a meteorite? Is you know, how big of the lottery did I win? And unfortunately, you know, the Meteorite Men guys on TV had a lot of cool stuff that they showed off, but their Hollywood handlers, every second question is, how much is it worth? How much is it worth?
That's right.
Yeah. And like, you know, like I had the discussion a few weeks ago, value is not just monetarily. It could be a much more important stone than that. But yeah, everything came down to dollars and cents. That's what drew the crowds, I guess.
Yeah.
I have an actual meteorite that is a good example to show fusion crust and how thin fusion crust really is. So if you happen to be working or looking at a specimen and you think it's a meteorite and it has a really thick bark or fusion crust on it, it's not. We're talking less than a millimeter of fusion crust. And you can see it's still semi-fresh, but it just does not penetrate the rock at all. Because realistically, the heat is not penetrating the rock. And you can see the difference in color between the outside of the stone with fusion crust and then the external that's exposed. But then when you flip it over, you also see the interior of the stone is a completely different color. And you have obvious chondrule formations with nickel iron disbursement through it. So this is a telltale sign that it is a meteorite. All right. If anyone else wants to jump in, go for it.
It is a good idea to ask the question about, you know, where the rock came from. Not from all deserts, but from many deserts, there will be a desert varnish that, especially to the layperson, is very, very difficult to tell between that and real fusion crust. But yeah, Topher is exactly right. Real fusion crust is between about 0.5 millimeter and 1 millimeter thick. Desert varnish is almost always extremely thin, on the order of 1/10 of a millimeter. But Topher's rock there showed one other good diagnostic too, is that the inside of the rock has some texture to it. It's not just solid black.
Yeah, if you cut it and it looks like a flat piece of rock or a flat piece of glass or something like that, that's probably what it is. It's probably just something that's not, you know, it's got to have some structure to it. I see.
Hey, Topher, I got a couple examples of those if you want to see.
Yeah, please.
So again, you know, you touched on streaks, so a couple things I keep in my collection. This is actually a fun one. You know, this was sold as a chondrite, but you know, I take it, you do the streak test with it. On the outside, you also do the streak test on a opened up face, and it gives you that classic brownish streak of hematite. So if you look at the inside, you can see it's nice and almost looks metallic in there. But if you take it and you hit it with an ohm meter, you get no conductivity on there. So you know it's 100% oxidized. So this was a fun little thing because, you know, this was like an eBay win where I was looking for a meteorwrong, and I had just done enough research to kind of figure out that, yeah, this is probably going to be a meteorwrong, and I want a chunk of hematite. So a win for 25 cents. How do they ship something all the way around the world for 25 cents? I couldn't find a piece of hematite out in my backyard for cheaper.
That's classic. But that's great.
One of the other things you mentioned.
That's a great example because it actually has nice shape to it.
Yeah, it does. And you look at it and, it kind of has almost like an appearance like, okay, there's a little bit of like maybe a crust line there, maybe, and it's relatively smoothish, like they say it should be, no real regs on it. But you had mentioned, blackened glass on the inside. So this was a piece that I found on one of the dry lake beds out in California, and it's stuck to a meteorite stick. And it was really dirty at the time. You couldn't see how angular it is. But that's one of the things you can also kind of, people are looking for meteorites. You don't usually get all sharp angles on everything. Not to say there aren't planar surfaces in it, but, this is obviously, got the wrong exterior look. And like you mentioned, glassy and smooth on it.
Oh, geez.
So this is some sort of glassy slag.
Obsidian maybe or something like that.
It's magnetic, and it's tough as nails. It beat up the grinder trying to just grind the face on it. So,
even as you were rotating that around, I saw glints and glimmers and shimmers and like glass like reflecting. It just didn't look right. So that was another giveaway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Last weekend we went out and hit up.
Pat, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's a good one too, because there's a lot of people who will send crappy pictures, but sometimes they'll send a video that's mostly out of focus. But as they're turning the rock around, you can very often see those, facets of something druzy looking crystals, and that is a clear indication it's not a meteorite.
Thank you.
There's your classic slag. This was just a piece found along the road while we were walking into the Bald Eagle site. So when we hunted Bald Eagle this weekend, there was not a lot of slag at all, no slag at all, pretty much, near the old railroad site. But on the road in, we were finding slag that they had brought in as fill material. And, it's got that classic smooth outer surface, that says, okay, I'm not angular, but then you turn it over and you look in there and you get all those big chunky vesicles going on, and pores and stuff like that you wouldn't usually see.
And what I want to also throw in a comment here, when you look at that, like hold that slag up again and look at the very top of it. And if I took a picture of that, not there, but the meteorite looking part, like right there, if I was to take a picture of that, crop it out, touch it up, and send it around and argue and argue and argue, it's still going to be slag. What we're asking everyone to do is not focus on the one feature that catches your attention and go, wow, that one feature looks like a meteorite. You turn that thing over and there's no way in the world it's a meteorite. So don't get so trapped into the one feature that catches your eye to be oblivious to the other things in the rock that give it away. Thank you.
Yeah,
and that goes for new sales too. If someone shows you a great one side of the rock, ask what the other side looks like too. For people who are not only new to trying to find things, and people who are new to buying things too, don't want to see just the good side.
Mike, if we could backcast. I'm sorry, Mike. If we could backcast your piece of slag real quick too. So there's the vesicles, and I've been calling them bubbles or expanding gas bubbles, because that's really what's happening here. So that's a key giveaway. But you talked about the smooth surface of it too, and the material science name for that is plastic flow. And so it's not that it's made out of plastic, but that it flows in a blobby, smooth kind of way like a plastic. And you also get that weird color of brown, which is hard to describe. But between that plasticky looking flow, the vesicles, and then a lot of times there'll be a break sort of this way on it, where you can see this brittle fracture pattern from the surface of a piece of slag down into the body of it. So those are really the three classic diagnostic things for slag.
And, the last thing we found three pieces that we did find railroad spikes and everything else, because the site is an old railroad site where they were digging, where they found the actual Bald Eagle piece. And we found these, and we were detecting, so they hit up the detector, But when they were cut, you know, obviously it's all metallic in there, and it's actually interesting. It's hard to catch on the phone camera, but they have these little curvilinear features that are following the curve of the piece, so it's almost like it has structure to it. But I went ahead and I etched it the other morning with ferric chloride, and of course, obviously, you got no etch to it. You know, it's just pure iron with no nickel content. You know, so that's you know,
Art
like,
Wagner here. Is that due to the metal being in a molten state to give that swirling effect?
you know, I don't know. I don't know if that was an artifact of what it used to be, and it was pounded, you know, in the 1800s, early 1900s into shape, and that's left over from the actual start material, or if it's a product of just the way it weathered. You know,
it's more likely
in the ground
to
for a
have
long time.
been, it's more likely to have been distorted by human working on it. There's one of the dry lake beds that I hunt on has a big old railroad track going through it, and so I picked up all sorts of stuff and had it in the scanning electron microscope looking for nickel and such. But
Humans
the
quest to make things better.
yeah. So the man-made stuff, is curved lines like that, and then any geometric shape that's too, you know, doesn't occur in nature. Things that are really flat or very straight, or a very section of a sphere. So it happened. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, yes, but I mean, it was great to get out and hunt with a bunch of people, and like I said, you know, the tests you go through to prove it. I mean, obviously the proof's in the pudding, like Dustin was saying last time. You know, XRF it, look for the nickel content. You know, look for Woods mapping pattern, which you can't fake really. You know, those are the giveaways. There are some natural structures out there and some rocks that do kind of look like Woods Mattenstein pattern. So I mean, even that, you know, if you don't look at thousands of images and know exactly what you're looking at, you know, I think the best thing to tell a new person is get on something like the meteorite picture of the day and just look through all the old days, you know, and see what a meteorite looks like.
It's really good.
One of the other things that was mentioned last week too that I didn't know about, but apparently just about every pawn shop has an XRF machine. Yeah. And they're going to use it to check to see whether it's a real gold bar or if it's a Chinese plated copper bar masquerading as gold. And I don't, you know, so there's a beam life, you know, an XRF filament won't work forever, but yeah, you should be able to go for $5 or $10 to a pawn shop and have them shoot it with their XRF. So that's there's pawn shops everywhere.
That is some great information, because I mean that's if you've ruled out everything else and you still, you know, are questioning, that's a quick and easy test to find out bulk composition, to find out if there is in fact nickel and iron present, and if so, it should be studied more.
Excuse me, Topper.
Yep.
Could I ask the question? I don't know if it's going to make sense or not, but does a meteorite or can a meteorite go through more than one melt from its transition from the asteroid belt till the time it lands on Earth?
Well, I would answer first and then allow everyone else to chime in. But there's two different melts that you may be talking about. Obviously, the obvious one is the meteor stage, where it's actually burning up in our atmosphere. That's a ablation and fireball. The other melt that occurs with meteorites is an internal melt, and that's due to shock. It's called shock melt due to impacts. So while it's right after its formation or during its space life, before its terrestrial life, it has been impacted substantially enough to generate heat. And like we talked about, the shatter cones not being able to handle that much of an impact, that frequency of a shock wave going through the meteorite actually changes it and melts it. So there's an internal melt in space and an external melt as it enters our atmosphere.
Yeah. Interesting.
Any more experts want to chime in on that? 'Cause- all right, nice.
Good.
I have another example, unless someone wants to show something off. This is an example that shows external and internal features. But I gotta actually turn on the camera. Okay. So what we have here is just another NWA chondrite. And this is a good example because, again, you see the surface texture is different than a lot of terrestrial material. And you see all these little dots? These are actually chondrules, metal blebs sticking up out of the matrix. So that's another thing that we're looking for. Let me try to zoom in on that. But those are actually metal blebs. So you're seeing the metal come through and be visible on the surface of the meteorite. Now, as we go to the edge, we notice it's not a hard edge. It's kind of softened, and it has this trailing lip here of extra fusion crust that's been piled up on the edge. When we flip it over, we see definitely worn terrestrial wearing, a massive, let me see where my pointer at, right there. Where is it? Right there. That massive, it's hard to do it right there. Okay, that's a massive chondrule right there. And we're looking for magnetic pole. I use the same exact rare earth magnet all the time, so I have it calibrated to my touch. But this is kind of cool because it shows you all kinds of weathering. I actually had a guy reach out to me claiming that he had meteorites, and I'm trying to help educate him. So this is one that I actually offered him for sale because it has all 4 stages of the meteorite, I believe. You have the internal unweathered, the internal weathered, the external with remnant fusion crust, an obvious chondrule sticking right out of the center, where is it right there? It has the softened leading edge, and desert wear terrestrialization on it as well. So I thought this was a really good example of a meteorite that someone could look at and see all different types of features on a meteorite that's external and internal as well. But again, when you look at it, it's not plain. There is structure on the inside, and you do see obvious rounded chondrules. You see these up here, right there. See that one? That isn't, these are, and then all the way up here, these are totally rounded chondrules. My pointer and my phone, it's hard to work together, but like right there and there. So this is a really good example, I think. You can actually see bubbles on the fusion crust right there. So we're talking about meteorites not having bubbles and vesicles. You do see a little bit on this one. These down here are terrestrialization, but these, I believe, up here are actually part of the fusion crust.
So would this be considered a breccia, the internal structure?
No, that's just a chondrite.
Okay, okay. It looked like a Snickers bar to me.
if someone has a brecciated example, that'd be really nice to see. But a breccia, by the very definition, is like many stones brought together. This on all sides of it. Let me just go back to it real quick. The reason I will say it's not a breccia is I don't see any lines dividing any rocks. When you look at it on the side, it is the exact same material throughout. Same color, same yellows, tannish color throughout. This has been desert varnished, and this has been fusion crust. But it is the same material on both sides all the way and throughout.
Okay.
Even on the very leading edge, you can see it's still the exact same material. So there. Does anyone have another example or anything unrelated they want to show off?
I have something else here. When most people are thinking meteorites, they're thinking about a nice black rock with a, it's hard to see the fusion crust on this, but a black rock with dark fusion crust all on it. And so, but unless it's a fresh find, it could be a meteorites that have fallen for millions, billions of years. It's not going to look like that. It's going to have a desert varnish. And so how do we know that this one is a meteorite? It's not black, but it's hard to see, but you see two large regmaglypts right here and here, two large thumbprints. And then on the other side, and Dustin was talking a little bit about this, it's going to be hard to see, but you can see the grooves along there. Almost looks like a shatter cone or slickened sides.
Definitely.
Now, how that was caused, personally, I'm not sure, because it is a desert varnished chondrite. But whether that was created in flight, or whether that was created by pressure or shock from the collision with another asteroid or meteorite in space, I have no idea. But it's kind of cool. It's really hard to see there.
No, it's actually coming through. We can see it. It looks like they're all parallel, running straight down and fanning. There is another good thing about this example. If you notice on this side, you have fractured fractured cracks running through the rock. Now, that happens in the desert when it freezes and heats up hundreds of times, thousands of times, millions of times. You're going to get faults in it that get exploited, and that happens. When you flip it over, Fred, perfectly, you'll see that that is exactly what we'd expect the other side of the rock to look like. When you see one side showing absolute terrestrial age of being cracked from being frozen and thawed out and heated up and expanding so many times, you see that, you don't expect to see a fresh fusion crust. So that those go directly with each other. And there we're actually looking at a piece of breccia. Kyle, you want to top this one?
Did that come through? I'm sorry if it did. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to.
No, that's good.
If you didn't interrupt, I'd talk for another half hour.
But the line going through this is that what you're referring to as the breccia? I'm saying it wrong. Breccia line.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at this piece, you'll see that there are obviously two pebbles, possibly even three pebbles. You have obviously a large one on top and a large one on bottom with a dividing line through the center. But then at 9 o'clock, you have another small pebble. That might have broken off that larger piece and rotated at a little bit of an angle, because it looks like it's kind of slumped down. So my impression is these are two rocks that came together, smashed together, flattened, and the dark material you see dividing the pebbles and surrounding the pebbles would be the shock melt.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually even a little simpler than that. The dark line that you see going roughly left to right there is a shock vein. And in Fred's rock, when we're talking about the slicken sides, that is shift along a shock face. So here we're seeing a shock vein, which is just a shock face, but we're looking at it edge on. But slicken sides is where you have the whole surface doing that. And on the deep cracks, that's diagnostic. And Topher, it is heating and cooling, but it's also water getting down in the cracks, rusting and forcing the crack open. And on meteorites that are from Northwest Africa and have decent sized cracks in them like that, you'll almost always see sand grains in there. And you can actually tell a regular old North American sand grain from a Sahara Desert sand grain under a microscope. That's not that hard. Our sand grains tend to be blocky. The Sahara ones, because they blow and move around to get ground against each other so much, are spherical, and they tend to be a light tan color. So that slicken side face, cracks, and a row of pieces of sand in there are all good diagnostics of a real meteorite.
If I could, I'd like to share something and throw out a thank you right quick. Let me put this up on the screen. And can you see that, guys?
Yes. You are now an IMCA member.
Thank you, Topher, for your help.
Congratulations, my man.
So, anyhow,
It was
got that the other day. I just been waiting to share it on this.
that is fantastic.
So,
Congratulations, fellow IMCA brother.
Congrats.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
It was my distinct honor to write the letter of recommendation for you. We've done a good amount of business together. We've done a good amount of chatting and friendship together. We hung out at the Meteorite Mansion together. Meteorite Mansion. When I was sick as a dog, I honestly think I had coronavirus.
You know what? Hey, I agree, Topher. You think I've been going to ask you about that, man. I really do. I think you had corona. Yeah.
We were near death. It was horrible, and yeah, it was right after it was at the Tucson show when everyone came together. Everyone was touching everything. I was licking and picking my nose and everything. It was bad.
And you know what, Topher? I was sick for a month when I got back to Canada, directly right after we left the mansion. And my wife swears that I had, a touch of the corona.
Yeah, it was bad. So
Yeah.
Kyle actually came. I had the Meteorite Mansion for 16 days, and it was a 3,000 square foot house, inside and outside. We lived in that house. I mean, we lived in it. Everyone took their stuff and were respectful. No one was really disrespectful at all. But everyone grabbed their stuff and left, and they left a few things for other people and didn't take out the trash or didn't do this. And then it was my turn to leave the house, and I'm looking around going, I have hours and hours of work to do. And no, just no. The answer is no. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting off this couch. I don't care how much Airbnb charges me. I don't care if other people want to move in. And then Kyle Josephine came back and cleaned the kitchen for me and saved my life.
Man, guys,
Thank you.
he was so sick. It was crazy. I mean, he couldn't even drive to U-Haul. So I had to drive him down to the U-Haul, get the U-Haul to put the stuff in and, all this stuff and back it up to the door. And then the Jurassic Greens guys were showing up to help load. But me and my son, man, we spent like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours in that kitchen and just kind of around picking up outside and everything. But wow, I mean, you're right, Topher. In the state you were in, I mean, you probably couldn't have done it for starters, but it would have taken, if you could have, hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, there was no way. I mean, I would get up, adjust my covers, and then when I take a nap, I mean, I was dying. It was brutal. So yeah, I honestly think that it was either the coronavirus or Matt Stream did it to us because he was sick first.
Yeah, and my dumb mistake was I knew we paid a cleaning deposit, but I figured that would start cleaning up the place when we were done with it, not cleaning it up, not having it cleaned for us the first time. So,
No,
but
that,
if anybody gets tested and finds out they had coronavirus, please let us know, because I didn't get the whole influenza thing, but that was a nasty, weird cold that I got twice.
and there's always the Tucson bug. You get thousands of people coming together. Everyone's touching everything. And the show is pretty, I mean, it's populated, and you're touching, you're hugging people you haven't seen in a while. I mean, it's a germ fest. So you always get the Tucson bug, but this is like Chernobyl.
Yeah, well, it's all that, and then you add people coming from all sorts of out back, from nowhere. So there's always a bunch of people from China, there's a bunch of people from Afghanistan, all over Northwest Africa. Yeah.
What are we looking at, Mike?
So going back to brecciation, and we'll see if this picks up. You can. There we go.
There.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up too is it's not necessarily only chondrites. This is an achondrite. This is a brecciated lodronite, and you can see the individual fragments in there with a lot of high metal kind of sheen to it, kind of dividing them up.
That is cool.
And that's that reflective sort of sheen, and it's difficult to tell if it's metal or not.
Yeah, and I don't have any lodronites yet, so I need to get a lodronite so I can take a look at that. Are they different? Why did it come back to me? Are lodronites magnetic?
Well, let's pull the magnet out. I know there's a lot of metal in there because this one actually stays inside of with my irons, because as you can see, it's before I did that and I was storing it with the other achondrites with the low metal in it, it was getting a little oxidation going on.
Is that a subgroup of the Heed group, loganite?
No, they're a weird quarter group of achondrites that are not too dissimilar from the what's the other one? Lodronites, Acapulcoites.
Yeah, so you can see it's really magnetic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild.
And I picked that one up because I hadn't seen a brecciated lodronite before when this one got posted. This is it's a little bit of NWA 5488 is the number on that one.
There's some
nice. So there's one more. I'm sorry, Tope. There's one more theme through all of this too, and I've been doing way too much of this recently on is it a meteorite or meteorwrong, and then every other page they use is it a meteorite page, but the chondrites, the ordinary chondrites and carbonaceous chondrites are pretty easy to tell from terrestrial rocks, even in the absence of fusion crust. But everybody thinks that they found one of the super rare achondrites, or they found a lunar meteorite, or they found a Martian meteorite. There's no fusion crust on it. There's only the inside. And there's a bunch of them that are amazingly similar to Earth rocks. And you think about olivine bombs and the super low metal giant crystal diogenites. A lot of those are difficult to tell, and so part of it is just the odds. The odds are that they probably didn't find a basketball-sized lunar meteorite in their backyard. So one of the things that I always tell people is that the total poundage or tonnage or whatever of meteorites that are recoverable on Earth is roughly the same as the amount of diamonds recoverable on Earth. Now that's gem quality plus the industrial diamonds. And on the people that are foaming at the mouth thinking that they've won the lottery, that doesn't work. But on a lot of people, it's like, okay, try to put this in perspective. Or go out to your driveway. Do you have an expectation of finding a diamond this big in your driveway? Finding a meteorite in your driveway is just the same. It's the same odds.
Yep.
I do have two show and tells too. If we're not done with show and tell yet.
No, go for it.
So this thing, I haven't been buying all that many meteorites off of eBay because
I hate you for buying that.
I pretty much stole this one.
Yeah.
This is it's not a classified CO, but I think it was Dr. Tony Irving put it on the FTI or the XRF machine and demonstrated that it's a CO. So it's a CO3 that I paid 85 cents a gram for.
Wow.
It was nuts, dude. And the only reason you were able to walk away with that is I fell asleep on the job.
I got a few other ones. Yeah, I got a few other ones from Matt streaming. I got some CD3, and then another one that was really wild. It was a fairly small piece that one of the real meteorite researchers looked at and said was a CM2. It was only 8 or 9 grams, but I think I'm gonna classify both of those. And then Stephen Cachet had another CO3, and I've got the other piece of it that was cut off here. But a really, really beautiful, very unweathered, unmessed with carbonaceous. So I'm having a lot of fun with the carbonaceous meteorites right now. Over.
Those carbonaceous ones are rare because like it's hard to find the detailed numbers or accurate numbers, and then people, because the declared weight and known weight and actual weight are all varied. You can run it based on number of falls or weight of falls, but when you look at the majority of meteorites, 85% of them are stonies, chondrites. A small little subsection of that are the carbonaceous ones. And then a smaller subset of that are the Orleans, or what's the O stand for?
Yeah, CO, which it's one of the French ones.
Yeah, Orlon. Yeah. Yeah, so what we're actually doing when we say a CM2 or a CO this, is what we're talking about is a chondrite, a carbonaceous chondrite within the subfamily of whatever. That's the M or the V or the O. And then the size of the water, I'm sorry, not the size, the amount of water alteration from the 1 and 2 numbers. So, and I
three is perfect, and then 2 and 1 even. Yeah.
Do you like how I got a little bit of Pat Brown's knowledge from last week's hangout in my vernacular now?
And it's really surprising if you go and search the METBOL database. It's really surprising how many of them are from Antarctica, because the carbonaceous chondrites, are pretty dark. They're harder to tell from a regular ordinary chondrite. But of course, in Antarctica, every rock sticks out and everyone gets looked at. So I was looking at the CV3s, and there was a huge percentage of them that were Antarctic. And so many of the classified ones too also had very, very little total weight. There was a lot of them that were in the few gram sort of range, and only a few that were into the kilogram sort of range.
Yeah, that's why I was really super impressed with that 300 gram CO that you got. I was like, man, that's a beautiful, because I don't think I'm gonna, I mean, I don't know when I would have another chance to have one that size and to feel the weight of it, to see the density of it. Because really a lot of meteoritics is holding, touching, experiencing, having the interaction with the item. It's like asking a mechanic to diagnose a car over Zoom. You know, it's a hard thing to do when people send pictures and say, is it a meteorite? And you're trying to educate them that, no, here's what, I see is wrong. And it's all remote. Once you've actually touched and held, and you know the weight, you know the feel, you know what fusion crust feels like, you know what desert varnish looks like, when you put it on a microscope, it's going to look different. Those type of things are just come through experience.
Hey, Topher, I'm going to share the screen again and give 2 examples of one thing Pat was talking about, and the let me see here. What are you seeing?
Oh, we see little sand traps.
You can see those cracks there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. That's the one I was intending to share. So
Yeah.
You saw the meteorite in person. You were the one who first told me. No, Kyle, I think that was from expansion. And then Pat was talking about how the grains of sand, now these are a little bigger than grains of sand, but they will probably become sand, or would have, due to the weathering, but see how they're all rounded in there? And my hypothesis is that every time they freeze and whatnot, they'll go a little bit deeper, acting like a wedge in there, those grains, and helping to expand that, year after year, century after century. So anyhow.
Yeah, well, after having cut open a whole bunch of really low-grade meteorites that I started with that were cheap, I think the biggest factor in the cracks spreading this far is, 99.5% or so of meteorites have iron in the metallic state mixed with nickel and, yada, yada. And when the water, there's always cracks, there's always weak spots, as these things slammed into each other way out there someplace before they got into an Earth-crossing orbit. And so it's the water getting down in the cracks, rusting, and that rust will just lever the crack open. And then you get almost all of the Northwest Africa ones have those very round sand grains of that color. Very, very diagnostic. Over.
Will that specimen fracture completely and fall apart because of the depth of the cracks?
Eventually, but I have a couple in my collection that the cracks are friggin' huge, but the thing hasn't fallen apart yet. So I don't understand.
Temperature and humidity must play a part in accelerating those cracks.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, the humidity, then the presence of water, and that one's showing sand grains in the cracks too. And you see how perfectly lovely round they are. Next time you're at a beach, or whether it's freshwater or saltwater, grab a pinch of sand and bring it back with you. It's not that pretty. It's just busted up little bits. It's not nicely rounded over like that.
I think everyone should have a stone in their collection just to show off trapped sand. I think it's a mandatory. So this is my obligatory sand trap.
Well, why wasn't that replaced with caliche in the crack, like some of the meteorites I've seen? Just a newbie having a lot of fun enjoying this, but there's a vocabulary, terms and definitions you must grasp in order to make the connections that you're speaking of. Otherwise, I take a left turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah. The ones with caliche replacement, we in the meteorite community use the word caliche a little different than somebody who's a agricultural engineer or really into farming. There's one specific type of clay that's called caliche, but in the meteorite community, we call a lot of different soil things caliche, and when it's deep down in a crack like that, it's usually a combination of soil or caliche and the glass in meteorites with enough weathering will de-vitrify into a clay, and so that's probably a combination of those two things.
Nice.
So what we're seeing here is caliche in the cracks.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like from the outside. A nice weathered desert varnished one, and again it's got sand in there. That's more of caliche than sand down lower. But yeah, just a little NWA.
Nice.
Hey, Topher, you mentioned everyone needs to have that quintessential piece with a stuck sand grain in there.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Dang.
There's a nice piece of Libyan desert glass, and that rather large clast, it's a pebble, a lot bigger than a sand grain. Is not going anywhere.
Wow.
Nice.
Hold on, I gotta get back to. Yeah, that is really cool. Man, I've never seen something like that, man. That's why I love this, man. Everyone gets to show off stuff that I haven't seen. Pretty cool. Does anyone want to show off anything in particular?
Let's see.
Because I have a gift from Oz that I would like to show. Oz came over a few weeks ago and got my first 3.10. So it's not the size that counts, it's the perfection of the chondrules. So look at this. I gotta take that out. My first 3.1.
Nice.
It's so hard to hold without being in
That's
shadow.
a beauty. I love the. It is like the chondrules in the 3.00s and 1.0s and 0.15s and such are just absolutely amazing.
Look at how
You should see mine.
That's what she said. Yeah. So that is about as unaltered of a stone as I have. You guys can see my heart beating in my hand. Yeah, so that was a nice gift from Oz when he came to visit me on 5/23. It's been too long, buddy.
Got a buzzard coolie I'd like to hold up.
Who's that?
Art Wagner.
Okay, you got to turn on your camera.
Okie dokie. Are we there?
I don't see you.
I don't know. Maybe I got the back on and not the front.
I don't see any camera.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if it's been muted. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I guess it's.
Yeah, we haven't seen your beautiful face this whole time.
Well, that might be a blessing, because you know what happened to Medusa, So I guess I have to go into settings and you know, unmute my camera or something, because at the toolbar at the top, I have to start the video with the diagonal line or something.
Yeah, you're probably gonna need to add a camera or something like that. Let me see.
Well,
I got one while we're waiting.
the camera's in the iPad, but apparently I didn't adjust it for this. Probably trying to keep the security, you know.
Yeah.
Not wanted by the FBI, but, you know.
So, right, we talked about not being a meteorite, so this is obviously not a meteorite. This is an old piece of the bricks from the American Meteorite Lab. So Henry Nidger's Meteorite Lab. We also talked about caliche, and that brick has some neat orange caliche all over it.
Is that short wave or long wave?
This is mid. It's, what is it, 365?
Okay.
But I thought that was kind of neat when I got the brick, and you know, one day I plan on getting a nice
Absolutely.
Ninja numbered piece to display on top of it. So that'll be my base stand for a Ninja piece.
That's cool. I like that.
Absolutely.
I have something that I can grab over here that I can show off. All right, we'll do it. This is it was the reason why we do this. So here is, when Pat Brown and I went out to University of New Mexico, here I'll put it, we went out to the University of Mexico for their 75th anniversary of the Meteoritics department, and we stopped on the way back for a hunt at Holbrook. And so I wanted to find a Holbrook meteorite.
You need to switch the camera.
What's that?
You need this focus to set that.
There we go. Okay, so there's the iconic picture of the Holbrook Fall. And I wanted to recreate this right here.
We're still just seeing.
The tiny little display. So what I have here is my Holbrook display. This one right here is still in the ground. It was never removed. This one was actually found by Ruben Garcia, Mr. Meteorite. He found this one here and removed the entire chunk of dirt. When I got it home, I turned it over and filled it with super glue. So now I have an entire piece of Holbrook sand with a Holbrook still in situ. And then when you zoom in on them, and these other two I found, but you can actually see fusion crust. Hold on, let me put the camera like this. Oh, where'd it go? My camera's not working unless it's on the charger right now. It's odd, but there. Why is it not focusing? Well, my camera decided not to focus anymore, so. All right, who has something to show off? It looks like Pat's digging around.
There it goes.
Oh, now it works. Why? All right, so as you can see here, there's fusion crust. Even though these are only like way under a gram, you can still see the fusion crust present. Oh, not there, you can't. But thought that was really cool to actually have a Holbrook still in the ground. So like that's the best in situ I can have. And that was a great trip because we had a bunch of people with us, and we had a bunch of. Oh, why is it doing that? cancel. Yeah, we had a bunch of people join us on the hunt, and we even had Kran from Kazakhstan, or I forget where she's from. Kosovo, yeah. I don't know why that. There we go. All right. Was my camera showing the Holbrook all the time, or was it showing me?
It was showing you, but I'm having major troubles with my wireless in the house here too.
Oh, that really sucks. I just realized that I might have hit the wrong button. So let me just show this off real quick. This is the.
There you go.
There's the Holbrook. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
So now it makes a little bit more sense.
Oh, yeah.
So this is my Holbrook display. This one here is still untouched. It's still as it found. These other two, this one I found by myself. That's my personal little Holbrook right there. Absolutely tiny.
So are those complete individuals?
Yeah, these are little fragments.
Little fragments.
Yeah, you can see this one's broken in half right there.
Oh, okay.
But what I was trying to recreate is in this challenge coin for the Holbrook. It has a little mini display in here that I wanted to recreate. And then on this side, it actually shows the Holbrook fall.
Wow.
Yeah. So now that I actually turned on the camera, you guys can enjoy it a little bit more. Sorry about that, guys.
Nice little bit of history.
Yeah. So that makes up a nice little display on my bottom shelf with the Holbrook coin right there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I like doing little things like that to add a little spice to my my meteorite cabinet.
Well, you bring up a good point. I had a question as a newbie as far as starting a meteorite collection. How much information on a label is too much? Because the information I'm researching is endless out there. Mm-hmm. And you could write volumes and nobody's going to stop to read it, So just the basic amount of information that might cause somebody to ask questions.
Well, if you're talking about like identifying something for your, are you talking about for your personal collection, like what information you put on a piece in your personal collection?
Right. Well, I do use a meteoritical bulletin there, and I take the information off that. But usually, specimens do come with a label, and I have to putter around and try to make it better because I'm a human, and that's my job. But a little bit too much information. Also, I'm interested in proper procedure for painting numbers on a specimen. So if it gets separated from the label, I'll be able to find it. And it's not easy for somebody who's got pre-Parkinson's disease to paint with a nice narrow brush numbers on the back of a meteorite.
I have never painted a number on a meteorite in my life, but I'll show you how I do it. And literally just go to Amazon, get yourself a Brother label printer.
Right, I have.
And that's honestly the best way that I found to do it. I usually just put the the name, whether the date obviously is the witness also has a full date, classification, location, weight, and then any information like this one that happens to be crusted. But what I also do is I have a database that all the minutia that I want, like the provenance and all that stuff. So everything in my collection has a serial number. So I can go to my database and pull up all the information about this. And then I also keep my, let me see here. I also keep volumes of COAs.
Yes.
So when I go, if I were ever to sell that, I would just turn to the page that had that meteorite. It's all serialized, and there's all the information. So like when it doesn't come with a COA, I create my own COA. That way, when I pass it along, if I ever pass it along, it has all the information. It actually has a COA now. It exists. It's been documented and given a serial number, and the serial number matches the one on the case. And then obviously, like this is an important one. This is the Los Angeles 001 Martian. So with that, I actually printed out everything, the entire. I mean, I have official communication between the actual collector and the Reverend himself. I have, you know, scientific data in there about so depending on how important the item is, that's how detailed I get with my information, I guess is the rough answer. But for displaying it, I want to know what it is, where it came from, witnessed or you know, what year it came from, how much it weighs, and what the classification is.
I'm currently trying to use Microsoft 365 Publisher to generate a little catalog in which I want to put my photographs of my stones, stony ions, and ions. And, you know, I know meteorites with a meteoritic bulletin come with like a Northwest Africa NWA number. I'm not going to remove that, but I have to have my own cataloging serial number to go along with that piece. Not that I'm looking to pass my collection on to academia, because they probably wouldn't even give me the time of day.
No, but it's very important that everything is identified and labeled. I mean, or like you said, like, okay, recent story, a newbie dealer trying to break in decided to buy or help an older gentleman liquidate his collection. Let me close my cabinet doors real quick. Okay. So he's helping this older gentleman. I just baked my desiccant yesterday, so I don't want my doors open today. So he's helping this gentleman liquidate his collection. He's an older gentleman. And whether the box got shaken up, whether things were mislabeled to begin with, the labels and the stones didn't match. The problem and the ripples that that create are just phenomenal, because I actually bought a stone and it wasn't what it was supposed to be, and it had to go back. So it creates a total lack of confidence in that reseller, in that dealer. But personally, as a collector, you have to be able to know what you spent on something, where you got it from. All that information is really valuable. So I keep there's two sets of documents. Basically, there's a hard copy document, the COA, and any documentation, any letters of correspondence, any negotiation we had, any emails that I have from any of the scientists doing the classifications, those are all put in there. But then just the naming and identifying it for the shelf, but then the database has all the information in it, and you can just type forever on there, whatever you want, you know. And it's quick and easy. Once you put it in the database, all you have to do is create a column that says, is it a witnessed fall, yes or no? Do an easy sort by, let me look at all my witness falls. So I think an electronic database is mandatory, but the paperwork has to be kept separately.
Do you burn your information to a disk also as a redundancy type of backup?
No, well, we're getting really technical into the weeds here, but I have a RAID server that I keep a copy on. It's actually mirrored, so I have two copies on my own. Plus, it's saved to the Google Cloud, and most of my videos are loaded on YouTube and Facebook. So there's like 6 copies of stuff. But my database exists in about 4 different places, and then every 6 months or so, I'll download a copy and email it to myself at work and put it on work server. Let them house it for a while for free.
Well, I would like to thank you for that new find, the NWA XXX Emerald Meteorite.
Oh,
I got that, and I'm very pleased with it.
yeah.
And I just can't wait for some people to come around so I can chew their ear off.
Yeah, that actually, you know what? You can update. Next time you purchase something from myself, from Topher Spin
Yep.
Meteorites, remind me. I will give you a brand new COA. Because that ungroup A chondrite, as we all know now, has a name. It's Erg Chech 002.
Yep.
And your piece that you bought for me was actually cut from the type specimen where the classification was done on. So the stone that went to the stone that the slice was cut from that went to the lab, that same exact stone is a slice I have and a slice that all my clients got on one of my last live hangouts. So if I didn't note that on your COA, I'll write a new one that notes that and also gives it the proper name, so it's not NWA XXX, because it's
That
not.
would be excellent. That would be excellent.
Please just
Because
remind me.
I'm all about the history of everything, you know?
Yeah.
One of the other things I would recommend recording too when you're cataloging is all the personal details around what you get. You know, was it a piece that you've been looking for like 3 or 4 years, you know, down the road as you get in collecting, stuff like that. Those are little important details. They're not scientific based, but you know, it's stuff that you might forget later on, and you know, it's part of, if you have it written down as part of your catalog, you can go back to it and remember, you know, the thrill of finding something like that in order to get it and get it into your collection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, all of those things are very important. I use a similar scheme, although mine's not anywhere near as updated as it needs to be. But one of the things for me is I'm getting on in years. I'm 61, and I've been grooming my nieces and nephews to. I got one geologist, but see if there are any others that are going to be interested in meteoritics. But one of the big things, and again, I hate to go back to the value thing, but you don't want somebody inheriting a collection and not knowing which are the valuable ones and which are the not as valuable ones. So that's one good reason to have that information. And then mine, so many of my pieces are ones that I found only from a couple of places, but there I have latitude, longitude, as well as all the other data. So with as easy as all that is to do in Excel or Publisher, actually that's cool to think about Publisher. I hadn't thought about that. But as easy as it is to do those things, there's no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I heard one time someone's biggest fear was their widow selling their meteorites for what they paid for them. Because hopefully we're doing better jobs buying it. Yeah. So I have the Erg Chech that I can show off if anyone's interested in seeing that, or if anyone has something else to show. It's wide open. We got Bruiser. Unmute yourself and you're going live.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey guys. So this is actually from Topher.
Oh, that looks familiar.
This is a Howardite, NWA 12227. I'm like working on my I've got a real nice diagonite slice. Now I got to get a nice eukarite slice on top of this. It's got I literally, it was supposed to be here Monday. It didn't show up until like last night, and I literally unpacked this like a few hours ago and barely looked at what Topher sent me because I bought a bunch of other stuff. The Erg Chech, whatever.
Yep.
From a couple of weeks ago. But this is really, Topher is like labeled, everything.
Sweet. That's sweet. Yep. Very
the
nice.
frame, and the COAs that he's given, like really keep, you know, help keep track of the information where he's got it from. And I've been doing the same thing. It's like, you know, I basically just display mine. I'll probably take that out of the frame and just put the slice up onto a holder, along with the others, and I'll just put, like, you know, a little card underneath it. So my biggest fear is, like, you know, the shelf collapsing and all the specimens just go. But I've taken photos of everything, so, you know, most are, you know, different enough that, you know, I think I can still kind of tell. There are definitely a bunch that I can't tell, you know, offhand, which is which, you know, which NWA is which NWA, in some cases. But I have a question, because last week or 2 weeks ago, last week, we started talking about rusting and stuff, and I looked at some of my irons, and the Nantan that you guys mentioned is showing signs of rust. And, you know, how do you handle that? And I can grab the sample and I can show you guys.
Yeah, please, because a lot depends on the size and condition. Because if it's anything bigger than like 2 kilos, I'm going to tell you that it's not in my sweet spot.
No, it's, you know.
Okay.
So you can see, you know, there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more visible on the other side. Show the other side for a second, Bruce, please. Yeah, definitely needs to be worked on, or it will not heal itself, obviously.
Right.
My knee-jerk reaction would be to tell you to do something as we don't want to be we want to avoid being aggressive with the meteorite. And when I'm bubbling with my words, I'm trying to click buttons to control cameras. I can only do one thing at a time. I have a recipe that I can send you with instructions of a chemical bath that will help. It's lye, high-grade rubbing alcohol, and distilled water. And it's all done by percentage of weight. So I usually do it by a kilo. I mix a kilo at a time, and it's going to be enough for that piece, and then some. Or you could even cut it down to 500 grams. But you just mix them together in a metal container. Make sure it's metal, because the chemical reaction is hot. I mean, you get an old Folgers can. That's what I use.
Is that mixture something you can readily dispose of without damaging your plumbing in your house or poisoning the neighbor's cat or dog if you dump it outside? Is there a way to neutralize it, like with marble chips or something?
Alcohol and distilled water are absolutely fine. Lye is very corrosive, but when you are running it down a pipe, your sink, if you run water at the same time, you're actually doing your plumbing a service, because you're going to be cleaning your pipes a little bit. So as long as you don't just dump straight lye down your pipes and you know what I mean, but I do recommend, I implore that you do not, like, this is not my COVID mask. This is my mask for all this kind of nasty stuff. You got to get a good mask, and you're messing with lye. Lye eats human flesh. So if you are wearing gloves and your gloves and you feel moisture inside your gloves, don't be a topher. Stop and wash your hands. Make sure they're not slippery anymore. If your hands are slippery, you have lye on them, because you will wake up the next day and be able to do this, and all your fingerprints will rub off. And literally, it is caustic stuff. But what it does is it takes away years and years of oxidation and stuff like that. So I can send you the information, Pat.
It's a really strong base, and so, you know, if you really wanted to neutralize it, you could use an acid to neutralize it. But Topher's correct in that dumping it down the drain, especially with some water, is fine. The old old-timey drain cleaners before everything went foo-foo and such. The old-time drain cleaners were just really strong lye.
Yeah.
And lye will eat the skin off your fingers. It also eats hair and grease, and so yeah.
Yeah, and those the little plate COVID blue gloves that everyone's wearing. No, you need chemical gloves.
Yes.
Chemical gloves. So let me give you a brief little demonstration of what this is going to be my example. Pretend this is your metal can of liquid, and you have you're not going to need it this high, but let's just say that's how high you have it. Don't put your piece, plunk it in there and let it sit on the bottom. I'll hold it. Because if you put it in there and it sinks to the bottom, all the chlorides that you're trying to extract, all that nastiness is going to be heavier and sink to the bottom. Now you're soaking your piece in the highest density gunk you can possibly get. So what you do is you elevate your piece in there, put a plastic table underneath it, or a stand or anything you don't care about, but elevate that piece, even if it's just a piece of hardware or something. Elevate your meteorite on that, so after the chlorides do come off and come down to the bottom, you're not soaking in the high density stuff. Sorry, I had to edit myself there.
Good information.
Okay, and
Cool,
now you're going to want to follow that up with some brushing, but you're going to want to always remember the rule of your brush has to be softer than your material. So if you're using a steel brush on a metal meteorite, you're in trouble. You're going to leave gouges. So on something like that iron, where it's already etched and you don't really necessarily want to go through the re-etching process, the chemical bath is not going to disturb that, and a nylon brush will suit you well.
You never want to use brass brush, never a brass brush on meteorites, because you'll scrub the brass off onto the surface and it looks terrible.
And then you'll have a brass meteorite.
Yeah, don't ask me how.
Yeah, the two brushes that I have, and I have multiple sizes of everyone, are just the black nylon and the steel. And
I've told people who were in my rock and mineral club collecting fossils never to clean their fossils with a brass brush, because then you'll think they're pyritized, because the brass comes right off. So, but all good information for sure.
Nice. We're going to have to get John one of these days set up so he can show us some of his stuff, because I know John has some beautiful stuff, but we'll get him to join the crowd when he feels comfortable. I'm going to show off a personal piece of mine, and this is the Erg Chech 002, and everyone else can grab a piece if they want while I'm doing it. This is the one that was taken off the type specimen. So now this is an example of where I've done extra labeling, because the piece is important. It's super important to know the provenance, because that's the main mass holder, and obviously I'm going to put that in bold, all caps, that it's cut from the main mass, or cut from the main specimen, type specimen. If you have
the peridot crystal in that one, correct?
Yeah, this one has a really nice. Let's see here. Those crystals right there.
Yes.
Calcium dioxide, or chromium dioxide, I think. But yeah, this is that beautiful piece, and I'm really happy with it. And then I also, because it's a personal item, it also has the serial number. Yep. So then here's my individual that I just got. This is a just shy of 38 grams, ungrouped. Again, I'm going to put my provenance on there and serial number. But this right here is my butte.
How many grams is that now?
37.5.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's got a good little
Oh,
crystal.
that's nice. I'm drooling.
Well, this is the newest. I don't want to say newest, hottest meteorite, but it is right now. It's like everyone's clamoring for it. I'm gonna keep this one as is. I think everyone wants slices right now so much, and they're cutting so much material with so much cutting loss that they're gonna regret it in the future.
Right, right.
There's not gonna be a whole lot of, this is gonna be in the sweet spot, hopefully, where people are gonna want, if I ever decide to get rid of it, that is. Look at those crystals in there, though.
Absolutely. Sweet.
But what's sad is, and I've seen a lot more on Facebook that are worse than this, but you see this void here. That should be a sexy crystal. This void up here, that probably should have been a really nice, sexy crystal. This one right here, that should have been, you know what I mean? So you look at it and you go, oh my God, how much more could there have been? Look at, there's one that fell out of there as well. But the one that Mike Farmer had, I don't know if you guys saw that online. That was crazy. It literally has a vein like as big as my thing here, just a hollow where a bunch of crystal had fallen out.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so that's the ungrouped achondrite that I'm sure there's going to be so much more testing done on this because we haven't seen anything like it. But it does really, really resemble a certain terrestrial material. I've seen pictures of it online, and it's really it's odd how much the materials look alike.
Can't wait to find out how much more information that they can come up with on this, because that's the whole thing about this hobby, is finding out new information.
Yeah.
And science is constantly doing that.
We're at over 40 kilograms of this one discovered now. When it was declared on Metbowl for the first time, I think it was 12 or 16. Then it went to 24. I've heard now it's going to be updated to over 40. Wow. That shows you how important this meteorite is to the scientific world, because as collectors and dealers, we always talk about the Metbowl never gets updated. It's like a frozen moment in time. When this was classified, this is what we knew about it, and we're never going to touch it again. It's too sacred. But now especially Dr. Carl G is so involved and so interested, fascinated with this meteorite that he is giving it super special attention and updating the total known weight as new stones are being found. And not all are being declared, but yeah.
So do you believe he'll be devoting a paper to this when he completes his findings?
I don't know.
I think it's highly likely.
That would be interesting to read, but like I say, if you're not equipped with the terminology and the definitions, how they're used, it's gobbledygook.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I know they did oxygen isotopes on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does the Metbowl talk about that?
I'm not sure.
So is this got a little bit of radioactivity to it, to where you have an isotope that has a shelf life or something, or are most meteorites not radioactive?
It is that's one of the things that should set off your BS detector if anybody says it's radioactive. Meteorites are not radioactive in the way that uranium and radium and other elements like that are radioactive.
Right.
There is on super fresh meteorites that have just fallen. There is a tiny amount of radiation that they can detect that's from cosmic ray exposure. but there is zero safety problem with meteorites. But talking about isotope ratios, they found for oxygen, they measure the isotopes, oxygen 16, 17, and 18, and then do ratios of 18 to 16, I'm sorry, 18 to 17 and 16 to 17 and plot them XY. And that plots out, there's a terrestrial fractionalization line where earth rocks fall. There's a normal line where ordinary chondrites fall. Then there's a special line for carbonaceous chondrites as well. But the way that Dr. Ziegler explained it is the oxygen isotope ratios kind of show where in the cosmos things were formed, that different formation areas have that signature oxygen isotope ratio. And they also, in some of the publications and stuff, they talk about stable isotopes, but that's again saying that, you know, that they're not isotopes that can break down and emit radiation. They're stable isotopes.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Longer ago in the life of the meteorite, or in the planetoid, asteroid, space material, there was a conglomeration of material, and that there is chemical reactions and radiation going on by radioactive decomposition. And anyone can correct me if I misspeak, but because of that heat that's generated by that, it starts more and more of the process. And also as it gets bigger, it creates gravity and draws more material to it and has more reaction, and that generates heat from the inside as well.
I shared the oxygen isotopic out of the MEPL in the chat if you want to see it. It plots below the TFL and above the eucrites. There are like 4 eucrites mentioned in the write-up that are close-ish, but I guess the plagioclase is in there. It can't form under the same methodology, so it's distinct from them.
Right.
So it definitely stays
So-
a chondrite grouped.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes this one special. I thought I had read this, and I said that wrong. This is the ratio of 18 to 16, and this is the ratio of 17 to 16. These being the oddballs, the 16 being the normal isotope. But yeah, here's your terrestrial fractionalization line. I don't know these other ones off the top of my head, but yeah, this one falls outside of that. And that work was done by Dr. Karen Ziegler at the Institute of Meteoritics in Arizona, or in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
The AFL next to it on the plot is the angrites, and the ones down below it, which was kind of closest to, is the eucrites. So
Ukraine, okay.
almost like a HED type body, almost like an angrite type body.
Yeah, okay.
We had a little invader come up behind you. That's awesome.
Well, didn't mean to scare anybody with mentioning radioactivity. That's probably not a good thing to talk about when it comes to meteorites, because people misunderstand that term radioactivity greatly. So,
Yeah.
you know, I could go into the supermarket with a Geiger counter and go up to a bunch of bananas in the produce and start clicking.
Yeah. Bananas are radioactive because they contain potassium-40.
Yep.
Yeah. Not very radioactive, and you couldn't eat enough bananas to cause yourself a problem. But there's a lot of things in ordinary life that are radioactive. There's glazes that they used to use on ceramic ware.
Oh yeah, Fiesta ware.
Fiestaware, yep. Especially that particular burnt orange sort of color. And then uranium glass. There's a bunch of things that are radioactive, but yeah, and people get all freaked out about it, but it's not that big a deal. But It's not an issue with meteorites at all.
But in the days when people used to pay good money to go and spend a week in a uranium mine and thinking that was healthy, good God, where are they now? Probably not above ground, they're underground.
Yeah, there were all sorts of quack medical radium treatments.
Trinidad, yeah.
Yep.
I have
Los Alamos.
kilos and kilos and kilos of space debris in my office. This
Yep.
little tray has more radiation than all of the cases behind me combined times 10.
Yep.
This is the
I
only
got a
hot thing in my
picture from
office.
a gentleman named Bob Lazar. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Area-
Oh, yeah.
So,
I
You
want
know
to
that he's
believe-
running a business.
Yep.
That UnitedNuclear.com is his business.
Right. That's where I bought it from.
You know, they won't let you sell Trentonite anymore on eBay because it's too radioactive for them. Although your smoke detectors radioactivity in that.
I used to have a wristwatch that had a radioactive radium dial on it years ago. It's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, and on the smoke detectors, it's only the older type that are not sold. I know they're not sold in California anymore, but I don't think they're sold in the U.S. at all. But they have an ionization chamber in them with a little americium. Guess I don't remember the isotope, but it's americium. It's a little teeny tiny amount.
I used to have one of those watches that had the glow-in-the-dark hands, and yeah, you could scratch the stuff off, and
Yep.
wasn't
Exactly.
recommended.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think I still have one.
Oh, nice.
It's tucked away somewhere.
Here's a
Radium.
small. I spent some time this weekend because as a dealer, I unfortunately spend a lot of time working on other people's stuff and not my own stuff. But this weekend, I said, you know what? I'm going to work on my own collection this weekend. So everything I did this weekend was basically labeling and taking a bunch of personal items. I have a box of stuff that's supposed to be my personal collection, and I just wanted to label a whole bunch and get them up for display. But this one turned out really nice. A numbered Norton County Albright. Yeah, and I couldn't get those numbers on there if I tried. They're beautiful. What I want to do is put another one in here that has crust on it.
That'd be nice.
That would be super slick. But yeah, but you can see my provenance on there as well. So, but that's, yeah, I've had this one since Tucson. I've been just wanting and wanting. It's just so beautiful. You know what I mean? Just, it's a perfect little nugget there with their number printed directly on it. And I'm just like, so I'm super happy I finally got it labeled, got off my ass, got it labeled, and put it on the shelf.
Very nice.
If does anyone have something they want to show? 'Cause if you guys want, I could grab the camera and show you what's on that shelf.
That'd be nice.
I have some good
Yeah, go
stuff.
for it.
I have some good stuff up there. So let's see. All right.
I'm sure everybody knows that in about 9 hours and 20 minutes, Perseverance is scheduled to take off.
Right.
Was that the Mars one?
Yeah,
Got a reminder set for viewing.
9 hours.
Yeah. 7:50 Eastern time is when it's scheduled for.
So it's 4:50
So, right.
California time.
Yeah, that'll be 4:50. Yeah, nice and early for you.
Well, I'm usually
also-
up at 4.
Well,
Yeah.
the heat and humidity will get me up early enough, that's for sure. Nice.
This is my my tiny speck of Tissant. John Higgins got me some lunar that's being classified. There's some lunar dust and some Martian dust. There's a whole other 22 grams of Martian dust too. Oh, and I'm sorry, that's lunar dust. I apologize. Over here is LA, my little 3D printed Mars rover.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful piece of Esterville.
Oh, yes. Sweet.
Yeah, I just absolutely love Esterville. It's beautiful. Dewar-Bigney, a tiny little, but it's got a nice bug in it. Come down here, you can see.
I think that's the first time I'm hearing of that one.
Yeah, Dewar-Bigney is an angrite. Is it an angrite? Yeah, angrite from Argentina.
Yep.
And it's a pretty expensive one. It goes for over 300 a gram.
Wow.
This is my my wife's anniversary present to me.
Nice.
NWA 13202, a chondrite that is 75% metal.
Wow.
Wow.
That's mine. And I also do stuff like this because there are 2 other NWAs paired with this one, and the total weight combined is 1.4 kilos. So I thought it would have been a little bit misrepresentative to put this down as a total known weight of 200 grams. I'd rather be totally honest and say it's total known weight of 1.4 kilos with the 2 paired.
Also helps you not accidentally buy the pairs.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the anniversary present. That's one of the newest things. There's my first find ever, gold basin. I had to cut it in 3 pieces to make sure it was a meteorite. There's the first meteorite I ever collected, called Father and Son because it's a 2-piece and it separates perfectly.
Definitely a special one.
A 1 of 1 Higgschiebel, followed by a Guzma.
Very nice.
Nice.
That's on my wish list.
Yeah, Guzma is just gorgeous.
Yes.
Those chondrules are crazy.
Look at that. There you go. Yeah. Once you get it to pop, it pops. Even the undone side is special.
Wow.
So that's Guzma. And then here comes my rares. My Scottsdale single stone. I think maybe a dozen people may have some of this. Maybe. There's Chandler. I live in Chandler. This stone was actually found by Dr. Lawrence Garvey at ASU. So what better provenance can you have than Lawrence Garvey finding it, classifying it, and then it went through Ann Black at Impatica, and Bill Pretlow bought it, and he came over and we cut off this end.
It's got to be a rarity.
Yeah, there's only 2 people that have this, me, Bill, and ASU. And we're not getting rid of it, so I even put on here
I hear that.
the provenance. And then I might even have put the date we cut it. No, I didn't.
I'd have that on the lock and key.
So that is my, I mean, you can't call yourself a meteorite dealer, international man of meteorites, and you live in Chandler and you don't have a piece of Chandler. Why is it not focusing? Yeah. So that's my Chandler. These are my birthday. Why? I don't understand why it's not wanting to focus.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but once you start collecting meteorites, is it safe to say it's an addiction, and that at some point in time you may need to go to a center to to help you with that
Yeah.
addiction?
It is a massive addiction, as you can see by this, and this is just the small stuff. Then you have bigger stuff over there, the entire cabinet over there, and then we're going to call that inventory, but it's personal collection for now. Yeah. So here's my birthday stones. We have a German, not German, Latvian. Yeah. June 2nd, 1863. This is a beautiful, I'm so fortunate to have this. It's just a beautiful piece. Awesome crust on it.
Absolutely.
And I go out of my way trying to make special little, I'm designing little cases, always trying to better my designs on them. So that's June 2nd, 1863. This is June 2nd, 1915. Meteorite. That's from Indonesia. Then there is Ulfert, and that's from Netherlands. Now that is in 1846 or 1843. So at 1843 and 1863, both of my birthday falls.
It just boggles the mind that somebody could find something that small.
Yeah, and it's still be around. This is my, we'll start over here at the diagonites. This is just a smaller diagonite individual. I don't know, there we go. But there's a total, low total known weight, so I wanted that one. I have a polymic diagonite. This is a polymic diagonite.
Ah.
Is my phone not focusing?
Yeah.
So we come to, this is that's a polymic. So this is another polymic in my second classification. NWA 12953 diagonite, and as you can see, it's got some metal in there because
Absolutely.
she did grab. Yeah. So this is the cut edge. See lots of chromite in there. I got this classified with Jason Bliss. So going from the most unknown diagonite, we go to some of the most known diagonites. We have Johnstown. These are both, the next three are three witnessed diagonite falls. There's only 11 total witnessed diagonite falls. Balanga, Johnstown, Tatooine, and I can't name the other ones, but these are the ones I have.
Mm.
This Johnstown is just a beautiful meteorite, and it really looks super special. The crystals in it, when the phone decides to focus. There we go. Yeah, Oz Backman has a beautiful hunk of that. This was my wife's Christmas present to me. It's 20 out of focus. Wow. My phone never, it always works. I don't know why it's not doing it now. But this is, why is it not focusing? There we go. All right. So this is just shy of 20 grams of Tatooine. Usually don't, well, usually. This diagonite Tatooine is usually a lot smaller pieces. So that's a pretty big one. We got some witnessed Howardite from Turkey, Sarasek. Really glossy, black, fine lines in the fusion crust. And then a slice sample of it right here. So you can see the intern. A beautiful witnessed Howardite. A crusty Howardite. Howardites are kind of like the trash hump. They got all kinds of stuff in there. You saw the Norton County, and we got Pasamonte, a witnessed eucrite from New Mexico. Dofar 007, a famous eucrite from 97, with the super like creamy eucritic texture. Just, this is one of my favorite meteorites to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Dofar 007. That's a euchroid conglomerate, so there's a bunch of stuff mashed in there. This is a polymix, so this also has, I really honestly don't know the difference between a polymix and a conglomerate. If anyone knows, I'd love to learn. But this is a nice little end cut here. And then to finish off this shelf, we have Smara. Really cool achondrite that is really unique looking. Now that's brecciated.
Absolutely.
So, Topher, conglomerate's a geological term that doesn't really translate to meteoritics well, because it's rounded clasts that are usually cemented together with like a lime base and then sand grain particles or siltstone particles. Okay. So it really has got no place in meteoritics to transfer over yet.
Okay, so what are we talking about then here, man? Let me put this away. This is a polymix CM. So
polymix is speaking to the fact that there's different class.
It's not polymix, it's eucrite. I'm sorry.
Eucrite, yeah. So that's speaking to the fact that the material in there is from different aspects of rocks that don't have the same chemical breakdown in there. So like a monomict would be all of the different parts in there can be traced back to kind of that same parent material that's been broken up and then reconsolidated. If it was a monomict, if it's a polymix, then it has multiple kind of rock sources in there. So the chemistry.
When does it go from polymix to CM?
So when you say, that's a cumulate versus
cumulate.
So cumulate is speaking of the nature of how the rock kind of all comes together. So like a cumulate is like fractioning of the different aspects of the melt that it's coming out of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's two different functions. One is speaking of, does it fraction out and kind of come from the bottom where the lighter, less volatile parts have already kind of mineralized, and then you have a change in the chemical composition from the start. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's different parts. It just means it's from a different part of the magma chamber.
That makes sense now. Okay.
So like a cumulate, the larger first things that kind of crystallized out start to sink out, right? So the cumulate is literally like at the bottom where they accumulate.
These are my hammerstones. Got some car hitters, house hitter, disputed cow killer, mailbox nailer, and the old Mrs. Hodges stone. I also have a piece of windshield or back window. And then I have part of the Garza house. The drywall, the blind, the Venetian, and little pieces of stone in there from Park Forest. And we've got some fresh falls. Gatutho from Kenya. Zob from Pakistan. And Benitra from Madagascar. Only 2 meteorites ever in Madagascar, and they're both witnessed. Followed by Ued Sieta. How do you say that? I had it one time. Well, there it is. I own it. Got a main mass there for a CM2. Total known weight was 64 grams, so that makes that the main mass. This is a cool one because it's a genomic breccia. So let me bring it under the light over here so we can get a good look at it, because this is Matthew Martin's classification, and it's really complicated. So it's the LL class. It's a genomic. So geno meaning family. It's the entire family of LLs, and it's a breccia. So we have different rocks all in here. You can see multiple different rocks, all ranging from a 3.10 to 3 and to 5. So there's different class groups in here that go to those different classifications. That's why it is a genomic. It has the entire family. Like these areas, I hope it focuses, right in here are absolutely tiny. Of course, I can't see the back of it now.
That ties back to the whole monomix polymix. So that's saying it's basically it's different petrographic classifications, but they are all from that same base material. So it started out with the lowest classifications, and some parts of it got altered and then reblended all the way up to 5. But chemically speaking, they're all the same. You know, it's all the same material that it started out as at the lowest petrology.
When you see, I don't know if I can point to it or not, right? Yeah, look at these perfect chondrules. That's where you're getting the 3.1 at, you know? But that is just a super nice piece, and I was really happy to get it from a super guy too. Matthew Martin's just a hell of a guy, and we got 2, looks like 2 armored chondrules on the backside as well. So that's pretty cool. So that's a look at those shelves. I'll let someone else take over for a while if they want.
Nice.
Does anyone want to show anything off while I take a swig?
So all of your specimens are stabilized, correct, more or less?
I would say that's correct. The really only stabilization, I mean, you're talking about irons and pallasites.
Right.
So yes, all of my pallasites are all stabilized. All my irons are stabilized as well. And then anything that I feel that may be a little susceptible to rust, I have it coated. I have no problem having a meteorite coated. If it's going to save the meteorite, if it's going to allow it to be enjoyed and make it an interactive piece, then I'm all for it.
Well, I had one friend say to me with an antan I had about the size of a baking potato, I had cut it and polished it and etched it to bring out the Widmosat marks and the lines in it. And he said, put it in a block of acrylic. You know, that way you'll be sure that that disease, it had the Lawrence sites disease, to where iron crystals or something. There was
Yeah.
a space there and it allowed moisture to get in, and it bled little green goo, and then that turned into little globicles of rust.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Lawrencite disease is actually a disease that pallasites and irons can get, and they weep out a yellow and green crystallized liquid. It really shows that the piece is in distress and needs to be salvaged immediately. Salvaging does not mean encasing it and all of its cancer in a block, protected from everything else, where the cancer can eat the entire meteorite. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about stabilization.
No.
By stabilization, what we're trying to do is all of Earth is a very harsh environment to meteorites. We have oxygen, we have moisture, all the things that meteorites hate. So what we need to do is, like, for instance, a great example is Saracho. It's a pallasite from Kenya. That is a very old meteorite and has, and believe it or not, 5,000 years ago, Kenya was a very wet place. There was a lot of underground water, and these rocks sat in water for eons. And you can tell when you look at a Saracho, a cheap one, in bad condition, it's going to have white and green crystals on the outside, this like calcium hard deposit. And it just shows you that so much water has leached through that meteorite in its earth life that it's left the chemicals behind that are now eating away the meteorite. So all the chlorides, all the salts, all that stuff is getting trapped in your meteorite, and that's what's causing the Lawrencite disease. You need to get those out. And the only way to do that is like electronic reverse osmosis is probably the
Right, and New
standard.
England Meteoritical talked about that, and that was a very dangerous thing that needed to be performed by professionals, because it was acids under extreme heat and pressure there, and if they ever blew up, I mean,
No, I think you're talking about something different. Reverse electrolysis, it's definitely not a game you jump into uneducated, so you want to do your research, but it's not dangerous and there's no chemicals involved necessarily. It's soda powder or from like Arm & Hammer. It's not, car battery, a generator. John?
Yeah, it's washing soda is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's for the demineralized water to aid in connectivity between the anode and the
cathode.
Thank you.
Yeah, electroplating.
I built one of those about a year ago. I've had great success with some of my more rusty rocks, especially the meteorwrongs I have. They've done great.
Meteorwrongs and Nantan are synonymous with requiring stabilization. I would absolutely love, next time you're setting up to do a job, or if you can plan it, we would love to put some of that into our live hangout.
I could help do a videotape.
Yeah. If you do a video, you can share screen and show it with us. That'd be cool. Because I honestly try to get into stabilization myself, but I had to draw the line somewhere. I can't. Even though I want to do everything, I want to do acid etching, but to be honest with you, man, it's science, but it's art. Don't let anyone fool you. I mean, painting is just applying art to a surface, right? The same thing can be true with meteorites. It's just about cutting, polishing, and putting acid on it, right? No. There's so many personalized steps. It's like barbecue. Everyone has their best way of doing it, and then, so you go to the guy with the most gold ribbons and you sit down with him and so, I'm very fortunate I've partnered, and most probably in this room have partnered with Craig Lyman in Minnesota Meteorites, shout out. He does fantastic work. In fact, oh my God, there's about 5 kilos going to him.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of everything in here, and I send it all to him. Let him deal with it. He knows what he's doing. He knows how long to bake it. I did a slice of Mooney, and I burnt where you wrap, when you put your piece in the water, you wrap wire around and you hang it like a piece from a hanger. Well, when I took my slice out, it permanently had burnt lines where the hanger was.
Really?
Oh yeah, I probably was jacking the wattage or voltage or something. That's why I don't do it anymore. Let someone else do it. I'll keep finding and bringing to market the beautiful pieces, and I'll let the experts in restoration restore them. You know, we'll all stay in our lane here. But let me show you a slice of Saint-Aubin. This is a heavy one. This is a slice of Saint-Aubin that Craig did for me.
No. It was very similar to mine.
Yeah. I wonder if we got sisters.
That was slightly different, but it was very similar.
Amazing.
So, yeah, what's nice about, let me see if I can throw this camera on. Where is it? What's great about once it's protected, you can touch it, you can hold it, you can give it to kids and let them, you know, have at it. But yeah, if you don't do it right, whatever is eating it up, you're going to seal inside and let it go to work. So it has to be done correctly. But he uses automotive, what's it called?
Urethane?
Yeah, automotive urethane.
Hmm.
I never would have thought to use something like that. But my problem is when I use Paleobond, I can never bake it hard enough to where it's, you know, shiny hard like that, and it's not tacky or gummy. I live in Arizona. Everything gets 120 degrees. You know, if you don't have a sealant that is dry, look at these details. When it's etched properly, everything pops. If you don't etch it properly, you're never going to get these results. And another thing to look out for is you got to look at the starting material. I approached Craig a while ago with an opportunity that I wanted to partner with him on. There was some Muona stuff that I wanted to make a deal with him and partner on it because I knew he could make it look beautiful. He took 15 minutes to look at the pictures and said, "Run, do not buy that." It went in an orbit that brought it too much heat, and there are some meteorites that just do not develop a good pattern no matter what you do. They have been heated a little too much and the pattern is just not there. And he says he has etched and polished and etched no matter what he does. There is just some meteorites that have, in his opinion, have gotten too close to a heat source, the sun, and the pattern has all but gone away. It's like Play-Doh, so you're not going to have the fine lines. And he said he fought with a piece for a while and just finally gave up. So you definitely want to look at your piece beforehand and make sure you're not buying garbage that, you know, and expect a miracle out of it. But this right here, the only problem with this is it's so big and heavy, I don't have any slice holders to hold it. I mean, I have these little puppies. No. I have my own 3D printed ones.
Oh, no, you need a big tripod.
Yeah. What I need is, honestly, I need to find a stud and put a rare earth magnet on the wall. And
Yeah,
just have that
let me show you
flush mounted on the wall.
Let me show you something I use mine on.
Oh, yeah, do that. I think that's the next step, is just have that flush mounted on a wall.
So my slice is rather large, just like yours. Okay.
Oh, yes.
But what I found was these kind of like a
Right.
at a picture frame store. And it works beautifully. They're large enough, they're strong enough, you can bend them, they're made out of wire. And they seem to work. They take up a little bit of room, granted, but they do work.
Ideal.
What I've been doing for my big slices, watch this, is because I need something that's going to hold them stable, and I also need a way to hide my desiccant. What I've been doing is this. There's avocado sitting on a bag of desiccant.
There you go.
And here is Seracho sitting on a bag of desiccant. But you have to go way down here under Holbrook to find the bag for the for the iron. I'm running out of space so much that I'm putting like a 1.5 kilo slice on the bottom shelf. Yeah, but this is my cabinet. It's just ridiculous. It's just gotten out of control.
Worse than mine.
Yeah. I'm running out of room to put stuff, but it's cool because I have a lot in here, and you know it brings me. Here's my new Toluca. That's why I'm getting rid of the old ones. My Gebel Kamil, and yes, I'm saying that correctly. I've practiced. Gebel Kamil.
Good job.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, everyone says Gebel Kamil or Gebel, but it's Gebel Kamil. Yeah, I that's a fun Tucson story. You spend enough time in Tucson and you're going to get corrected by people who know actually how to say it. There's my spring water, and then my half spring water with elongated olivines. Kind of a rare feature to have elongated olivines.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm definitely running out of this Conception Junction, the Brazilian one that I can't pronounce. Yeah, so I'm running out of room in here.
Hey, Topher, straight down.
Straight
Go down. Yeah, right there, right in the center. Up. Okay. Is that
Admire.
Yeah, this is Admire. I got some Admire with loose peridot.
Yep.
I have a beautifully, whoops, that shelf fell over. This one is translucent.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
And this one is what I'm most proud of. This is an Admire. Beautiful square crystals. Nice little end cut. Nothing super special, right? Wrong. The gentleman who owns the farm that Admire fell on is named Jerry Calvert. And my phone is not focusing. There's Jerry Calvert. So I actually made contact with Jerry Calvert and bought it directly from him. And he's getting up in age, so he doesn't do this anymore. But he wrote me a letter saying this was personally found on his farm. So that piece of Admire is extremely special to me because the old man might not be with us much longer, and I don't know if he's going to be writing any more letters for people.
Fantastic.
But that's what makes the meteorite special and gives it value to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's not for sale.
Oh,
There's some funny things happen when you're in the meteorites. You post a picture of your Altai, and then Chris Colvin says, "Hey, I have the sister slice."
yeah.
As soon as I heard he had the sister slice, I own 2 slices. So there they are, my 2 pieces of Altai. And those again were done by Craig's Lyman. As you can tell, they're just remarkable.
That was a rare opportunity, huh?
Yeah, once Well, let's go into the void, guys. Where is yeah, it's weird because my wife honestly doesn't believe that that I recognize stones when I've met her same friends 6 times and don't remember their names. But but I swear, someone posts a picture of a meteorite. I mean, a sexy meteorite. I'll be like, wait a second. Hold on a second. And I'll be flipping through, like holding it up, like so I get their picture, and I flip their picture. And I'm like, there you have it. It's a sister slice. I'll take it.
Well, talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
In the right business.
Yeah. This is, you know, my daily life consists of me selling computer technology to companies. But I'd much rather be talking meteorites all day. I can only get so passionate about server input output feeds and how many 10 gigabit ports you're gonna have. It's like
What I like about your collection is I think it's a genuine, honest representation of anybody starting out to collect meteorites to start small. I had a friend recently who didn't get it, didn't understand it. He said, that little thing, why isn't it as big as a 10-pin bowling ball?
Yeah.
Well, obviously they knew zip about meteorites.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I would be in jail because I couldn't live long enough to pay for it, you know, for one thing. But you see these institutions, educational institutions, they get these grants so they can afford to throw down $285,000.
Yeah.
You know, I don't live in that neighborhood, but thank God for the institutions that do and put them on display, because it's truly amazing to think you're that close to something that started from the Big Bang. You'll never live long enough to go into space to collect your own, but imagine just holding that piece in your hand. What a story it tells if you listen to the person who has the information or read the information that goes with that. It's incredible.
It really is. I remember I was at University of New Mexico at the meteoritics department, and they have the main mass of Norton County there. And it's under this huge glass dome. If you've never seen it, it's just, I mean, Google it and you'll see it. But this meteorite, it's just beautiful. It's under this huge glass dome. And there's little fragments that have fallen off it over time. And they're just sitting around the base of this main mass. And it's hilarious because they're bigger than my piece. So, but my advice to anyone who's starting meteorite collecting is twofold. Start small and start trusted. So if I start small, don't try to say, I'm going to have one of everything, because you can't.
No.
Focus on something that appeals to you. If like my wife loves pallasites. That's the only thing she likes. But a pallasite, if that's what appeals to you, then go nuts. Be the pallasite king. If type specimens appeal to you, and owning one of everything and owning the named type specimen falls, then pull a Mike Kelly and go micro and go nuts with it, you know?
Yes.
If all you want is just a hunk of space debris that's billions of years old and you want size, well, go NWA and classify. You know, there's something for everyone, and you don't need to own everything, and you don't need to own everything now.
Right. Well, it's like I was asked a question. If I was to answer somebody who asks, what are the top 10 meteorites that somebody starting out a meteorite collection should try to acquire to add to their collection? But then again, well, you're talking stones, stony ions, you're talking subgroups, and, you know, chondrites, carbonaceous chondrites, and I mean,
it's the same thing.
It goes on and on.
Yeah, it's the same thing as walking into a, you know, a Miracle Mile and saying, I want a car, I want a vehicle. Well, you got to be a little bit more specific. But yeah, so my recommendation for people is start small and then also start trusted. There's so much known fraud and purposeful fraud on top of just ignorance and on top of people who may be desperate and need money. Put all that together and put it into a place where someone gets 10% of every dollar sold, and there you have eBay. eBay is a den of thieves and fakes. Now, there are some very legitimate sellers out there, and I mean, a lot of really good material, but if you don't know what you're doing, you don't belong on eBay because you will get taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
Another
thing I believe a reputable, honest dealer of meteorites bases his name on what he sells. And he knows if he gets caught selling junk, not to say he can't be fooled, but selling junk, well, if he's on the top of meteorite dealers, tomorrow he's on the bottom. His customer baseline just goes away, you know. So that's a big thing to stake your name behind what you sell, and that to me is better than any guarantee you could ever have printed on a box. You know, and I avoid overseas. That's nice, but in the mineral business, I have seen merchandise photographed that doesn't, when it arrives, look like the picture. A lot of it is lacking the size, and then somehow in customs it gets lost, and you have little recourse in how to recoup or ever see the piece. And I mean, like P.T. Barnum said, you know, there's one born every second, buyer beware. And you know, you have to educate yourself, and it shows like yours that do educate us, and that's what's so fantastic about your live shows. You know, you're taking me a newbie that's getting into it, but you have absolutely very educated people on your live in the meteorites that I couldn't hold a candle to. But I'm glad that you can find it in your repertoire to talk to me as a newbie, empty-headed, know nothing. I have to paint the letter L on my left shoe and the letter R on my right shoe to tell my right from my left. You know?
It's more about the passion than the knowledge. You know, we in the meteorite community, just in general, we have more time for those people who are willing to learn and apply that knowledge than who want to sit there and argue with us about something. Because, you know, I'm not a terrestrial guy. I'm not a geologist. I've never been to school for that. So if you're asking me what it is, I don't know. I know what it isn't, though. You know, it's like after that, that's the end of my knowledge. I can't comment any further. I can just tell you, based on what I see, I don't believe it's a meteorite, or, you know. So, well, I'm glad that this was helpful to everyone. I'm going to give one last warning. If you want to show anything off, now's the time to raise your hand or blink rapidly at the monitor. I see no one having a spasm, so we're good to go. Hey, everyone, I'm going to spotlight me so you guys can talk. I do appreciate everyone joining. John's good having you. Ozman, as always. Arthur, welcome to the crowd.
Thank you.
Really appreciate everyone's time. Hopefully this was valuable information on how to identify a possible meteorite or meteor wrong from exterior examination. And if you have any questions or want to follow up, just reach out to me on Facebook. Just search for Topher Spin Meteorites or leave a comment here on YouTube. Definitely appreciate you watching the replay. Own your universe, guys. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your time.
Good night.
Thanks, Topher.
Thanks, Topher. See you, everybody.
See you next week.
Good time. See you, Pat. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye now.